Hello and welcome back to the True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
How's everybody doing? Staying on ground, I hope?
Yeah, where we belong, right? We don't got wings. We can't even glide. Why do
don't even get me started on the gliders, those guys.
Right? Oh, yeah, the extreme gliders. I watched one that was like, I think it ended up being a Red Bull commercial, honestly, on YouTube the other day, but it was this dude that was like gliding through a city. Have you seen this video? I'm going to send you the link.
I've seen many like it.
Yeah, I'm sure
I can imagine. You know, they go through like little narrow passages and
Yes.
stuff fucking traveling like 150 miles an hour or whatever the speed they're going.
It's like if they're like 6 to 8 inches one way or the other, they could have just ripped their arm off.
Just splat.
You know,
they're just just bug juice on a wall.
Yes. It's insane. How fast
Like, why even wear a helmet at that point, honestly?
Right? What is the point
Going
of a
150
helmet?
miles an hour.
What is the point to preserve your skull for science? I don't even think that's going to work.
It's one of those things where I'm looking at it different. I'm like, I'd rather not have the helmet, so I'm hyper aware of my surroundings, so I don't hit something, because the helmet ain't gonna save me. Or if it hampers my vision or anything at all, I'd rather not have it.
I think most of those guys are just wearing the helmet for the GoPro attachment.
Right.
You know, that's the only reason really to wear it, so you can get the full view of what the glider sees. You know.
Yeah.
But this is a whole other animal here, skydiving.
Skydiving. Hey, would you ever do it? Have you ever done it?
Fuck no.
Yeah, that's the way I feel especially after this.
No, especially after this. There's a scene that we're going to talk about in this that just reading it fucking gave me chills.
One of the most terrifying deaths we've ever covered on this show.
No doubt.
In my estimation. Just like this, I don't know if it's just custom to me. It just freaks me out, but I don't know. I guess.
No, listen.
How do you feel about it? Like just this victim in this one, just falling and knowing.
Having the awareness.
Knowing you're about to hit the ground and you know, in a matter of seconds, and there's nothing that can stop it.
Yeah, dude, it's absolutely terrifying. That's understandable. And I'm not afraid of heights. But this terrifies me. I'm afraid of falling and smashing on the ground, you know? Like, that's the reality. It's like, who is afraid of heights? You're afraid of falling from the height, honestly.
When you take everything into account, all the context to this one, where the victim had done thousands of jumps, literally, and jumped out like it was any other day, having a good time. Like there was no lead up to it. Like it was just like instant realization. Like, oh my god,
right?
I have no chute. Like
this is the equivalent of going. This is the equivalent of like going for a jog every single day on the same path, and then a car just like broadsiding you out of nowhere and killing you instantly.
Not even because you at least that you wouldn't know it was coming until it hit you. For the most part, that's
true.
You got like 30 seconds to think about it.
Like you're jogging on a path, and then a puma comes out, and you see it running up at you.
Not getting that one either, but okay.
You're not getting that one? Okay.
Maybe a bear starts toying with you and like slowly killing you.
Well, I'm saying like, they say you're running, right? And then up ahead in the path, you see this mountain lion that's like running alongside you. You ever seen that video of the tiger that's like chasing the Jeep through the forest?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like that. See, you have a few seconds to know, I'm about to die. And this was just a normal day. Just a normal day. You know?
All right, I'm picking up on what you're putting out there.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. It's kind of similar.
Is this a good enough intro for you guys?
I think so.
We're calling this episode Death from Above. Cue the intro.
Let's do it.
They were friends, I'd say fair weather. On the weekends, they spent time together. Jumping out of planes, there's nothing better. Except maybe Friday nights, cause that's when he'd get her all alone. Just him and her all alone. Just him and her all alone. Just him and her all alone. All alone. Everyone knows the night don't last forever. Lust comes and goes, but hurts more now than ever. Feels like second best whenever she's around. As luck would have it, she was last on the ground, all alone. Death from above. Cold-hearted killing in the name of love. It was death from above. Cold-hearted killing in the name of love. It was death from above. Cold-hearted killing in the name of love. It was death from above.
All right, our case this week involves skydiving, if you couldn't tell. So we're going to start out this episode with some facts about skydiving and kind of ease you into this thing.
Yeah.
So I have some information from an article from 2017, and the publisher is a website called inverse.com. Here's some quotes from this article about skydiving. Every year, over 500,000 people voluntarily jump out of planes just to free fall 13,000 feet. So it's anywhere from 13,000 to 15,000, from my understanding.
Either way,
is the height you fall from. Yeah, nuts either way, right? According to the United States Parachute Association, this daring league of adrenaline junkies, newbies, and skydiving competitors make 3.2 million jumps in a year, and 500,000 of them are first-timers.
I believe that.
So that's from an article from 2017, so I'm guessing not much has changed in the last 4 years as far as the numbers of people doing it.
Yeah, they probably
Maybe
actually
tick it up a couple ticks.
They,
But
they probably actually went up, I would think, during the pandemic. People are like, fuck it. The world's going crazy, right? Let's skydive. Now's the time.
no joke. Yeah, and also fairly safe. Like, you're not that close to people. There's a small group. You could probably go with your own group of people and
Yeah.
everybody get tested and go or whatever.
It makes sense, though, that 500,000 are first-timers every year. Because that's probably the only time they do it. I think most people skydive and they're like, that was good. That's off the bucket list now.
Exactly, right? They don't become like full-timers.
Yep.
So in 2007, researchers published an article in the journal Behavior Research and Therapy on time perception for first-time skydivers and found that people who reported being more frightened also reported the fall lasting longer than it actually was, which...
Duh. That makes sense.
When I heard that, I just couldn't help but think of the victim in this case because I'm sure it was going by quickly until she tried to pull her chute and realized that neither her chute nor her backup, her reserve chute were going to work. And then that fall probably took a long time just thinking about everything. But
maybe you felt like it was flying by and your life was flashing before your eyes. And you were like,
perhaps like I need more time. I need more time. We got to figure something out here. Yeah. People who were excited, however, had a time flies when you're having fun experience and thought that the dive went by faster than it actually did. Objectively speaking, that free fall normally lasts for about a minute.
Whew.
So the free fall from the time they jump from the plane until they pull their chute, I believe, lasts for a minute, that free fall part. And then it's a few more minutes from that point until you hit the ground.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I was about to say, plane to the ground in a minute. That's insane.
No, it's certainly longer than that. Once you pull your chute, you're obviously going at a much lower speed and you drift for a while.
Okay.
So from the moment you jump out of the plane to the moment you land, your body experiences a variety of different speeds and accelerations. Javier Avendano, neuromuscular disease researcher and avid skydiver, tells Inverse that rapid acceleration only lasts 3 to 4 seconds. After that, there is high speed but no acceleration, which gives the relative feeling of floating. The sensation is due to air molecules pushing back against your body as gravity pulls you towards the ground.
Right. So once you hit a certain
you hit the speed of about 122, somewhere around there, 120 to 125 in that window. And you can't go any faster than that because, once again, air is pushing against you.
That's getting it, though. I mean, that's fast.
So no matter how high you jump from, once you hit that top speed, so like when you jump off, if someone falls off a building, jumps off a building, they hit that top speed, and that's that. You don't go any faster than that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, that's plenty fast enough, right?
Oh, 100, yeah, definitely plenty fast to kill you.
Oh, sure.
After a few seconds of this, you reach a steady speed of 110 to 120 for about 30 to 50 seconds before you deploy your parachute at 3,500 feet and slowly glide down to earth. The speed of the plane you're riding in before your jump is close to the speed at which you free fall. Quote, from when you come out of a plane, you're already flying at 100 miles an hour. That's a good point because the plane's going 100 plus.
Right.
Air resistance increases with speed. Quote, terminal speed is the speed at which the air resistance pushing upward cancels gravity pulling downward. Cancel means that the net force is zero, which means that acceleration is zero, which means that speed doesn't change. So when you reach your terminal speed, you stay at that speed, once again, right around 120 miles an hour. And according to the United States Parachute Association, there were approximately 2,140 injuries for the country total in 2018 in the United States, which equates to one in about every 1,536 skydivers, or 0.07% of all jumps, while fatalities were even less.
Right.
So fatalities are exceedingly rare.
Yes, because...
And the type of fatality in which we're covering this week is extraordinarily rare, where both chutes don't work, and that's because in this case, her chute was sabotaged.
Right. I was just about to say.
By someone who murdered her. That's why we're doing a true crime episode.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the only way that seems like the only way that this would typically fail. I mean, obviously, with all the jumps and all the people in the world, there's been people who just had two faulty chutes.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to doing your due diligence and inspecting your chutes before every jump and all of that. And I'm sure some people do so many jumps that you get to the point where you get lazy or
You get comfortable.
and then accidents can happen. I'm sure, but
That's in everything, though, right? It's like when you got that new.
it's like just like commercial airliners. You have to be inspected constantly,
Right.
in order for it to be safe.
That's right. That's right. You can't get too comfortable, man. Can't forget about
I think
that
it's
shit.
more often that there's collisions while in the air between jumpers when they jump in groups, and then that's much more likely. I think that's where most of those deaths come from, to be honest, is collisions in the air.
And they get knocked
then
unconscious.
Someone's knocked out. Yeah, they get knocked out, and then they're not able to pull their chute, obviously, and someone's trying to fly over. I saw one instance, actually very recently, where an instructor tried to save someone who had gotten knocked out and like flew over and was like trying to pull their chute for them, and then they ended up both perishing. He was a hero trying to save this woman, and he wasted so much time trying to pull hers for her that he got too close to the ground, and they both ended up dying.
Couldn't he grab her and pull his, though?
I don't know, man. I mean, I think he was so far away by the time he saw that she was not going to be able to pull her chute that like he didn't have enough time to do
I
that.
see. He just wasn't close enough to her at all, probably.
Yeah, wasted a bunch of time getting over to her, and then by then it was too late anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, you got a minute before you got to pull that chute. That ain't long.
Yeah. No.
That is not long.
There were 13 skydiving-related deaths in 2018, or 1 in every 253,669 skydives, which is 0.0004% of all jumps. So very safe when all the precautions are taken.
Right. But still not safe enough for me. Still not doing it.
Right.
It's not that.
Yeah,
I just
and
feel
so
like I
I'm-
wouldn't enjoy it, Just the whole experience. I just don't think I would enjoy plummeting to the earth at that speed. I think it would be
Yeah,
less
I don't know.
exciting.
I'm just getting old because I don't feel like I need the adrenaline from anything dangerous anymore. I'm just like, I'm happy.
I'm
just
good.
living, man.
Yeah.
I'm cool.
I'm
I don't need
appreciative
to, like,
of my
my
life.
life to be at risk to have a good day.
Right. Or to have a good time.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
So imagine how long the fall would feel once you realize both your main and reserve chutes had failed. That another minute or two that you have of falling. And of course, as we talked about, all those is extraordinarily rare and probably only happens when someone intentionally tampers with the chutes. This is what our victim faced this week. And I wanted to bring up that this week I coincidentally read Working Stiff Again. We covered that book. That was part of our research into our death episode. We did an episode just on death.
Yes.
And everything surrounding death. We did that on Patreon probably a year or two ago.
Yes.
And we used Working Stiff and we used Smoke Gets in Your Eyes.
Yes, by
both
Caitlin
books
Dowdy.
about,
Yes. Very
Caitlin Dowdy did Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, and Judy Melanick, the medical examiner, did Working Stiff.
great books.
And I re-listened to that book just because I loved it so much. And coincidentally, she talked about times where bodies that she had examined from people who had fallen from large heights. And I just thought it was interesting. Some of the takeaways was that the bodies a lot of times look normal, actually, from like even when someone falls from like 8 stories. And I'm
way.
sure they're hitting that top speed of the same speed that someone hits from falling from a plane. Because like we said, you hit that 120 mark and it doesn't go you don't go any faster. So,
Right.
And even hitting concrete, a lot of times the damage is internal. Like your organs just are shredded, but your body still looks fairly normal, depending on how you land. Obviously, if you land, on your leg or something, if you land somewhat horizontal to the ground,
Yeah.
they look fairly normal.
That's incredible. I guess just because
Right.
your bones shatter, right? And so
And your
there's
skin
nothing
is so
there's nothing to protrude the
elastic
skin.
as well.
Right, but there's nothing to protrude the skin because it all obliterated. Right?
Yeah, it's all internal damage.
Wow. I wouldn't have thought that though. I still would think that the skin would be torn and misshapen.
There is, of course, occasions. I think it is also commonplace for the skin to tear and there to be exposed fat and things like that. But for the most part, they're totally recognizable. Some people might assume you just be because completely flattened and mangled and unrecognizable, but that's not always the case.
Wow. Interesting.
So for our case this week, we were traveling to Belgium. I don't know. I can't think of another case we did in Belgium. Can you?
Not offhand. No, we may have done like some Belgian natives, maybe featured some people from Belgium, but I don't think we've done a case.
Yeah, we might have had a European serial killer that stopped off in Belgium
Yeah.
at some point or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't think we've
Although
had a case.
I never thought about it until just now, but doesn't it seem like the serial killers we've covered in Europe and overseas, they almost never travel as much as the ones in the United States? All the serial killers we do in the United States, they're all just jumping around from state to state and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the serial killers that we've covered in like the UK and stuff, they seem like they always just stay in the town they're in and just kill a bunch of people there.
Maybe it's harder to get around, man. I don't know. I think we take our interstate systems for granted over here in the United States. Maybe it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost a straight shot to go east to west across the United States. And then, like, you can go straight up the East Coast and you can go straight up the West Coast. See what I mean? Like, that's...
That, and there was all all the issues that come along with a fairly new nation when it came to like the 70s, and a lot of these serial killers, they were still like no communication between jurisdictions and all that we've talked about. I don't know if they had those same issues over in Europe because they've just been around so much longer.
Oh, I'm sure they have. Yeah, they're not
So
excluded.
this case is in Belgium. We meet Els van Doren, who was an experienced skydiver with 2,300 jumps, over 2,300 jumps under her bag. At Genk, Belgium, the Zwartberg Parachute Club, of which Els was a member, she was also a mother of two and married to a jeweler in Antwerp. So Els loved skydiving. That's all she did on the weekends. You know, she had her home life with her husband and her two children.
Right.
And then on the weekends, she was basically staying at like a cabin or a lodge and just skydiving the whole weekend.
That was her
Just
passion.
getting in all those jumps.
Yeah.
Yep. And then she would get hooked up with a group of like-minded individuals who loved to skydive. In the early 2000s, Els met another Els Clodemans, who was a 25-year-old primary school teacher with a history of some psychological issues, which would come out later. She also met Dutch skydiver Marcel Mars Sommers, who was 25. And this group would be very close for the next few years, jumping together every weekend, hanging out all the time, becoming good friends.
Yeah.
Els van Doren spent her weekends and her time skydiving and being with Marcel Sommers at the skydiving club or at his home. And this is where they start having an ongoing affair. Els van Doren would be sleeping with Marcel Sommers on weekends while they would go skydiving and then go back to his place, and
Right.
they would be frequently sleeping together.
Yeah. She was basically...
unbeknownst to her husband.
Yeah.
She had this double life
I was
going
about
on.
to say, she was basically living a double life, but I mean, everything seemed to be working fine, though. It wasn't like her husband felt like, his needs weren't being met, though, although he didn't know about this.
It sounded. There was a quote from him later on, and he said that they hadn't been having sex for a while. They were just kind of at that point in their marriage,
Right.
or whatever. They had the two young children, and they were just that part of the essential part of their relationship had kind of drifted apart.
Right. Well,
And here's a quote from the jump club that they were in. The manager of it, a guy named Jurgen Kamps, he said, quote, "I had a conversation with Els van Doren about her double life as a mistress of Marcel Sommers and as the wife of Jan de Wild, which was her husband. Club members believed that Els van Doren was separated from her husband. However, Els explained, with Marcel, I have a nice time on weekends, and with Jan, pleasant things during the week. I carefully compartmentalize both worlds." So it was working for her. Her husband
yeah.
had no idea, and everything was fine at home.
Yeah. Sounds like it. It seems like it was working fine. And I think their lives would have went on like this, bar this tragic event.
Exactly. But of course, it was more complicated than just a weekend kind of
Weekend
adulterous
fling,
thing going
right.
on here.
Yeah.
Because there was another member. There was a triangle here that Els van Doren may not have even been aware of, but whether she knew it or not, the other Els was also sleeping with Marcel. Marcel was quite the womanizer here.
Old
He had kept both women in the dark as well about his close relationship with the others, or so he thought. But of course, you couldn't only keep that hidden so much because they were a close knit group of friends that were hanging out all weekend.
I was about to say, they're at the same
every
cabin
weekend.
every weekend,
Yeah.
skiing together.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably meeting down at the continental breakfast together before they hit the hills or before they hit the plains, whatever the hell they're doing.
So in November of 2006, a week before they would go jump in a formation together, all three stayed at Marcel Sommers' home for the weekend. Only it wasn't the younger Els sharing his bed. It wasn't Els Clodeman. It was Els van Doren.
Uh-oh.
And Els Clodeman had been spending quite a bit of time in old Marcel's bed, and she was not a fan of seeing Els van Doren taking that spot that she believed was hers.
Imagine
She
that.
ended up sleeping in a sleeping bag in the living room. So she was kind of left in the dark here, kind of put out.
Ooh,
She was
third
number
wheel.
2. She realized she was number 2.
Yes.
And this coincidentally, where she was put in the living room in her sleeping bag, was the same room in which Els Van Doren's parachute and other gear were located.
Dun, dun, dun.
So she's in a bit of a jealous rage. This is the theory, because she's been put out by her lover and, her friend.
Yeah, people have killed for a lot less.
Her friend, who many would say is more attractive than her and kind of, more outgoing, and, Els
also more-
Clodeman has issues dating back to her childhood, and she also has self-esteem issues, and almost
Right.
everybody
We'll
in the
find that
club
out
and everybody
later.
that knows her notes that she has odd behavior quite often, and that she's quiet and a little bit odd of a person.
Right. But also, Van Duren is, a more experienced, a more mature woman as well. You know what I mean? So she has a lot to offer, especially a young man like Marcel.
Yeah.
Because
That's
Van
true.
Duren's probably what? She's probably late 20s, early 30s at most, though.
Yes.
She's not much older than him. So, yeah, I mean, this is big competition for Clodemans
Yep.
at this point.
So this brings us to the day, November 18th, 2006 at noon. They set off for their fun formation jump that they were going to do. They were going to do a star formation, just one of many jumps they had done before and would continue to do, they thought.
Right.
And so on November 18th, 2006 at noon, the 12 members of the club fly over Flanders expecting to enjoy their day of skydiving. Tom Bolsius, who leads the band, waves his arms, he smiles, he gives the signal for them to exit, and at 13,000 feet, Els Van Doren, Marcel Sommers, and Tom leap out of the Cessna expecting to perform aerial maneuvers during their fall. However, Els Clodemans is supposed to be a part of the star formation with the 4 holding hands as they drop, but she doesn't jump with them. She waits a few minutes, or I don't know, not minutes, but seconds, which are pivotal. Of course, if you're going to be a part of this formation.
Of course.
You have to jump simultaneously.
Anything- I was about to say, anything after them is too late. I mean,
Yeah.
probably a half a second is too late.
So Els, a quote from her, Els Clodemans, she says, quote, "I jumped a fraction too late to join the other 3." Doesn't look good on her when you consider everything.
Man, and how many times have you done this?
Exactly.
Wow,
Y-
you're
I
not a
mean,
rookie out here. What are you doing?
It's kind of hard to miss the signal, you're watching the guy
Right.
to give you the signal to jump, and everybody else jumps, and why are you still waiting?
I was about to say, worst case scenario, you jump when the other 3 people beside you jump. I mean,
Right.
how hard is that?
So Els Van
This is
Doren,
obviously on purpose.
Els Van Doren was wearing a helmet with a mounted camera to record the jump, as I'm sure most of them were, if not all of them. It's very commonplace in the modern days to keep that, whether you're doing the bat suit or whatever it is, the flying squirrel suit.
Yeah. Of course. You didn't record it. It didn't happen, bro.
That's right. And as Els Van Doren first floats on her back, she looks at the clear sky and then turns her body and looks at the Limburg countryside, completely, just enjoying the day and unaware that neither of her chutes were going to work. At the signal to open chutes at 9,000 feet, as the team separates, Els Van Doren struggles but fails to open her chute as she hurtles towards the ground. She tries to pull her reserve cord to no avail. Suddenly, the helmet cam. So this footage is out there somewhere. I did search for it, but I gave up, and maybe that's for the best not seeing this, because it's got to be pretty hard to watch.
Oh my God.
The video
It'd be
from her
devastating.
from her helmet of her panicking and realizing that she's going to die.
Yeah, it's going to be hard enough to hear you read through this.
Yeah.
The video footage is,
Yeah, it's got to be dark.
I'm sure it's got to be.
So suddenly the helmet cam video starts to shoot back and forth. The camera looks up. The white reserve parachute over Els Van Doren remains closed. She keeps pulling at the ropes, but her efforts are in vain. She desperately tries to open the parachute, but the remaining 3 hanging straps are intertwined. And Marcel Sommers and the other jumpers can only watch in horror as Els Van Doren plummets, also looking on as her friend Els Clodemans. Els Van Doren knows that she's going to die, and the camera mounted on her helmet captures her screams, panic, and increasingly frantic struggles to open her chute. And she can be seen looking up desperately, hoping to see an open chute. That image, that's got to stick with you for the people that were above her,
Back and
seeing her
forth.
looking up, just
Yes.
praying that a parachute is going to open above her, and it never does. The video ends as she impacts upon the ground and into the shrubbery of a nearby garden. So she landed in an older couple's garden and was dead on impact. Marcel Sommers also had a video camera on his helmet, and the video follows Van Doren downward When he sees Van Doren's difficulties, he swims in the air and opens his parachute as fast as possible. He lands upon a lawn. Upon landing, he utters a heart-wrenching primal scream because he understood that her jump was fatal. And on the ground, he began running through the neighborhood looking for Els Van Doren. So he's obviously very concerned and distraught over his friend and lover's, potential death here.
Absolutely.
We get some odd behavior on the part of Els Clodemans. She reacted different than the others when it came to this. When the jump club manager, Jurgen Kamps, announced to the team that Van Doren had died, Els Clodemans collapsed and started crying. The others reacted with disbelief, not realizing that Van Doren was dead. She actually started, collapsed before he even finished saying that Els had died. Els Van Doren had died, which the people found odd, and also her reaction they said was over the top. Which, if your friend
you
perishes,
have to know that. Go ahead.
I think what they're going on is that they had the natural reaction as a group, like disbelief initially, and her reaction was almost like she already knew, of course, that Els had died.
Right. I mean, they all knew that she died.
You would think, right?
Though. I mean,
seeing her plummet with no parachute, of course she did.
Ground. Right. Of course, no one's going to survive a fall from an airplane. Come on. But
especially landing straight on ground.
Right.
There are people that have survived that hit trees and things like that to kind of slow their fall down, but they get obviously very hurt.
Right. But I see what you're saying, though. The fact that there were so many people on site to gauge a general natural reaction, and then hers was the only one that was different, regardless of how she reacted, it's super suspicious. Right? Because you have a control for this experiment. You have all these people who definitely aren't involved, and you got their reaction, and they're all the same. They're all similar. So that's interesting. It's a very interesting part of it.
Yeah. So Wally Elters, who was a witness at the drop zone airfield, says, quote, "I was working on my plane when I heard someone on the ground screaming and pointing at the sky. I looked up and saw a black spot falling and quickly to the ground. It was wiggling about, and it was pretty obvious it was a person. Above it were 3 people in parachutes coming down slowly. Then this person hit the ground. It was an appalling moment." And then there was the testimony of Paula Don't, who owned the property that Els Van Doren would land in. That was her garden that Els landed in. She said, quote, "I wanted to hang out the laundry. I first heard whirring and then a terrible thud. In the bushes, I saw a white cloth."
She heard the wind noise.
Yeah.
Of her body.
Oh man, that's freaky, right?
Through the air. That's what she heard. Yeah.
That's how fast she's traveling. You can hear the actual wind that her body's creating.
I mean, imagine if a motorcycle went by your house at 120. You would definitely hear that shit. I mean, even bar the
and then
motor,
take away the sound of the engine as well, and then you just
that's
hear
what I'm
that.
saying. Yeah.
Or like a Tesla going by at 120. There you go.
Yeah.
Because there's no motor sound.
Exactly.
She says, "In the bushes, I saw a white cloth, a leg, and a foot."
Oh no.
What's weird is that her parachute was scheduled to undergo a routine safety inspection 3 days later. So it was that time as well.
Wow.
And so in November, not long after her death, her funeral was held. Along with 1,000 other persons, Els Clodemans sat in the congregation at the funeral for her, quote, close friend, even though her husband had requested that she not come, that any members of the club not go, because obviously he was suspicious of how she died, that someone was involved in her death, had done it to her. So
hell yeah.
Not knowing who it was.
Yeah, their family's not stupid. They knew the odds, and I'm sure Els Van Doren had talked to them about skydiving plenty of times. I'm sure as passionate about it as she was.
Yeah,
they knew the ins and outs of skydiving as well. They weren't stupid.
Right. So Els Van Doren's sister delivered the eulogy, during which she threw it out there. She stated, quote, "You did all you could during that final jump to save yourself, but someone did not want you to live."
Oof.
Yeah. Shots fired.
Get some of that.
Yeah. So following would be obviously an investigation by the police. After discovering that her chutes had been sabotaged, that lines had been cut, and actually the lines on her reserve chute had been tied together so that it wouldn't operate properly. Police would interview the members of the skydiving club as well as Els Van Doren's family and friends, and investigators began to hone in on Els Clodemans as the killer once the love triangle was discovered. Once they found out about the workings of their relationships, the fact that both of them were having sex with Marcel, and that there was motive there, and that Els Clodemans had the ability to be alone with the parachute, and also had the knowledge as someone who had skydived as much as she had to be able to sabotage. You have to know parachutes as well in order to do this properly without getting, 'cause otherwise just a look over and a quick inspection of this would, if you didn't know what you're doing, you wouldn't know how to repack it to where it looks like it's fine.
Exactly. And that's exactly what she did. She sabotaged it completely, but it still looked entirely fine.
Mm-hmm.
She has the motive. She has the passion for the crime.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not looking good for her.
Yeah.
This is easy person to narrow in on.
Yeah, and she knew it as well. Els Clodemans was quoted saying, "I know it looks bad for me because I had motive, but I didn't do it. I deny it emphatically." And she would continue to deny it. She would tell investigators that she did, quote, "I suffered from low self-esteem and entered the relationship knowing I was second best." Authorities believed that Els Clodemans had, before the weekend the three spent at Somers' home, discovered that Marcel Somers was having an affair with Els Van Doren and became jealous enough to commit murder. They said that it was when Els Clodemans made two key cuts, slicing the main parachute strings in two and tying strips of cloth around the reserve chutes so that it would not open. In December of 2006, hours before Els Clodemans was to make a second statement to police, she attempted suicide, leaving a note stating, quote, "I want to be with my friend." So maybe
she was unsuccessful.
Showing some guilt on her part there. Possibly.
Do you know how she tried to commit suicide?
It never said, no.
Yeah, I couldn't find it either.
I mean, I guess it's irrelevant. She didn't succeed, but she did attempt it.
Right.
And she would soon be arrested for the murder of Els Van Doren. And throughout the 100 hours of interrogation by detectives, she maintained her innocence. Quote, "They wanted me to confess, but confess to what? I couldn't confess. I hadn't done anything."
Right.
The public prosecutor, Dirk Ronette, said, quote, "She had a very important motive. We believe she set out to do this where there would be no competition for the affections of Marcel. Quote, jealousy was the motive for a coldly calculated killing."
It typically is.
It is hard to see.
It is a lot.
Another scenario. Like, who else would have done it? But
I know.
You just don't know, man. Like, there was a lot of people in their group that could have potentially done it. They would have had the ability to get her chute alone and had the know-how to do it. So,
and also, so many people like to, in these lover quarrels, they like to blame the husband. Well, the husband didn't even know about this.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to blame him for this, and he wasn't there. He didn't have any knowledge of parachutes and shit.
He did have knowledge of parachutes. We'll get to that, but
yeah, that's right, he did.
Yeah,
he did some time in the military.
Yeah, we'll get to the husband and because
okay.
of course the defense tries to turn the eye to him.
Of course,
they try to point.
That's the only other right. Who else you got?
Right,
you got to pick someone else who would have some sort of passion involved in this case as well.
Yep. So in 2008, Belgian papers published a letter from Els Clodemans from Belgium's Haslet prison in which she states, quote, "I always knew I was number two for Marcel." After her arrest, Els Clodemans would be freed on bail to await trial. And a court psychiatrist would examine her and find her to be psychopathic, narcissistic, and manipulative. And that was a common theme. They had her analyzed by several experts, psychiatric experts, and they would almost all be in unison saying that she had severe issues.
Oh, yeah. It was a no-brainer. And everyone mentioned the words psychopathic and narcissistic.
Yeah. Not good.
Every single one. Yep. Not good at all.
So her trial would begin in September of 2010. And they were going into this with purely just basically circumstantial evidence and hearsay.
Yeah, that's true.
They had no physical evidence. They had nothing tying her. They didn't find her DNA or any of her hair or anything like that on Els's parachute. They have nothing to physically say that she tampered with that. But it's just
right. This would never fly in America, dude. A good American defense attorney would get her ass off.
Yeah, I would think so, man. This is I don't know that you could prove beyond a reasonable doubt. She was steadfastly denying. And you just have everyone basically talking about her character and how they believe she did it. Everybody that knew her, everybody that was in the jump club basically pointed at her, including Marcel, with whom she was sleeping with.
Right.
And then you have the fact that she had the opportunity to do it, and the police believe she had the motive to do it, and therefore she did it. And so at the trial, which began in September of 2010, on the table in the courtroom lay the mud-caked parachute and helmet that Els Van Doren wore on the jump the day of her death. So I guess that just adds a little bit of levity to it for the jury. I'm sure the prosecution wanted that there just to kind of show how real this was,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And prosecutor Patrick Boyan from the indictment said, quote, "There is enough evidence for the murder charge. As skydiver, she knew that she had the knowledge and the opportunity to sabotage the parachute." The indictment said it alleged that she made 2 key cuts in the parachute. On top of that, she had a relationship with Marcel, who also had a relationship with the victim, giving the accused a motive to have Marcel for herself, for her alone.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, how do you expect to get away with this, though, in hindsight? That's where the narcissism comes in, right? Where you think that you're so much smarter and so much further ahead. And she thought, well, if they can't tie my DNA to this, I won't get convicted.
To be fair, that's we both kind of agree that in America, in most situations, I don't know that she should be convicted. I don't think it's all circumstantial. I don't like convicting people to a life sentence for a murder when I'm like 90% sure Hills Clodemans did this, but I can't go beyond reasonable doubt from everything I've read. Yes, there's a ton of stuff that looks bad on her character. There was definitely motive. She definitely had the wherewithal to do it, but there was also people in their jump club that had the ability to do this. They knew how parachutes work. Also, her Els Van Doren's husband, I'm not trying to, throw mud on him, but he did have the ability to do it. And you could say if you were, let's just say hypothetically a prosecutor, you could say her husband had motive because if he found out about the affair she was having with this other guy, that's motive.
Right.
So it's tough.
And we really don't know if he didn't know about the affair.
No, you don't. This is based off the police saying when they told him, his reaction to them told him that he didn't know.
Language.
But that's
his body language.
Yeah.
He didn't even say anything.
Right.
So, it's just too circumstantial.
Yep.
It really is.
Yep.
This would just never fly, like you said. Now, she didn't get life, though. She only got 30 years.
Right.
Spoiler alert.
Right.
But so she could get out in her 50s.
Yeah.
And maybe they thought that was a good compromise. I don't know.
Yeah. So prosecutor said that Sommers was sharing a bed on Friday nights with Clodemans and then Saturdays with Van Doren. Jeez. They stated that on November 10th, 2006, a week before the murder, Clodemans was staying at the Sommers home, as we know, and when Van Doren showed up, they claimed that Sommers then took Van Doren upstairs to bed when Clodemans was kept downstairs on a mattress in the living room. They argued that Clodemans could hear the pair making love through the thin walls. Sommers' parachutes were in the hall, and then it was alleged that Clodemans, consumed by jealousy, took the chance to interfere with them. This is all, once again, this is hearsay. Like, their whole theory of like she could hear them making love through the walls. It's like, how are we supposed to believe that that's exactly how that went down? You're just saying that.
Exactly. When I read that, I was like, this sounds like something out of a book, like something that the defense attorney would just make up. Because there's just no way you would know that. Because Clodemans is not going to say that. She hasn't said that to anybody.
No, she's denied
Why
everything.
would she do that? Yeah. So obviously that would enrage someone, I guess.
Yeah. We'll get to much more character stuff about Clodemans, though, that definitely make her look like the type of person that would do this.
Right. Yeah. We'll have no problem convincing you of that.
Yeah. Investigators found that the straps of both Van Doren's main and reserve chutes had been cut. Quote, Clodemans snipped the parachute strings and Van Doren jumped to her death a few days later. The jury also heard damning portraits of Clodemans' emotional state. A report by 3 psychologists depicted her as deeply psychopathic, but able to maintain a facade. Quote, she was cold, without emotion, they said, and a danger for society. She was described as being deeply disturbed by her father's death when she was 2 and having sought psychological help after suicide attempts at age 16. Once again, I don't know, man. Like,
disturbed by your father's death at 2?
Of course you were. And of course, she sought psychological help when she was 16 as well. What more do you want her to do?
But I could see how you could be affected from not having a father, like on your upbringing. But I don't know how you could be disturbed by his death at 2.
Yeah, the memory.
Right?
How much do you remember it too?
Yeah.
Well,
I have a grandfather that died at 2 that I was allegedly very close to. I don't remember anything.
Well, my daughter's 2, and if I think we're so close that I think if something happened to me, regardless, suicide or just if I died in one way or another, it would deeply affect her. It regardless of manner of death. Just not having me around anymore every day would definitely affect her.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I'm just saying, like, the actual loss right away. I don't know if a 2-year-old is processing that.
Right.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It just seems like kids' memories kick in around 4, 5, 6. typically, as far as long-term psychological damage, I guess. But I don't know. I'm shooting from the hip. I don't fucking know.
Hey, that's fine. That's what we do.
Yeah, that's what.
So Vic Van Eist, or Elst, was the attorney for Els Clotemans, and he says, quote, "This is nonsense. Since being released on bail in 2008, Clotemans had completed teacher training and worked as a primary school teacher in the Brussels district of Anderhelpt. This is kind of scary to think. She's released on bail for, a murder charge, awaiting trial, and she's still teaching primary school.
Her attorney is probably thinking, what better time?
And she's been deemed psychopathic by 3 different psychiatrists, and yet they're letting her teach children. It's a little bizarre to me.
Well, you got to be psychopathic.
I don't know what they're doing over there in Belgium.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah. Thank you, teachers.
Yeah.
You're amazing.
Quote, "We will not deny that Ms. Clotemans has some problems, but she certainly is not a psychopath," says the defense attorney. And then we finally get to hear from good old Marcel, who, testifying via video from the Netherlands, suggested that Clotemans was unable to cope with his relationship with Van Doren. Quote, "When Els and I went to bed, Babs kept turning it over. Something cracked," he said. "She took a pair of scissors and cut the parachute cords. For me, that's the most realistic scenario." So from the man involved in the triangle between these two women, he's pointing the finger directly at Clotemans. Prosecutors accuse Clotemans. Do what?
I said he was getting those vibes. He understood her jealousy and what she felt.
Oh, yeah.
He just didn't care at the time.
Right, which doesn't make him look like the best person either.
Right. But
he's sleeping with a married woman knowingly who has children, and also he's like knowingly tormenting this other woman. It almost seemed like he was getting off on it, right? Like Van Doren shows up when it's Clotemans night for them to get it on, and then he just blows her off and takes Van Doren up. Like,
throws her a sleeping bag in the living room.
Right.
I mean, it don't look good on anybody, really.
No. So prosecutors accused Clotemans of sending anonymous letters to Van Doren and making anonymous phone calls prior to the murder. Another member of the parachute club in Zwartberg described Clotemans as a, quote, drama queen. Investigators...
Wow, that's an understatement.
Okay, but does that mean you're a murderer? I mean...
Right.
Investigators found and presented that Els Clotemans was the author of an anonymous letter and anonymous phone calls to the victim, Els Van Doren. And what's interesting is that on these letters, there was no DNA, which made me wonder,
I was about to say, how did they connect her to these letters again?
I think she actually admitted to it, first of all.
Oh.
Clotemans admitted to it.
Yes, you're right.
But there was no DNA found on these letters. And that kind of makes it look like she's a little more guilty because they did find nothing. She was very careful to do this with the letters, which would lead you to believe she'd be careful tampering with a parachute to kill a woman. That she would not leave any traces on that as well.
Absolutely. She did. And she had plenty of time, too. She had all the time in the world with those parachutes, the whole night.
Yep. So back in 2005, Els Clotemans sent the anonymous letter to Els Van Doren. She demanded that Els Van Doren choose between Marcel Sommers and her husband and 2 children. So she was basically threatening to say that she would out her to her husband and ruin that relationship if she didn't choose one or the other.
Right. And when that didn't work, she stepped it up, right?
That's right. Yep. Mm-hmm. So Van Doren must have called her bluff and been like, what are you going to do about it? Are you actually going to tell him?
What are you going to do about it?
Els Clotemans claims, I quote, "I regret having sent that letter along with the anonymous phone calls to Els Van Doren." So she does admit that she had done these things. Doesn't make her look good as far as...
No, it does not. I bet you do regret that shit now.
Mm-hmm. She also, however, said, quote, "We were friends for years and in the same skydiving club. Why would I kill my close friend?" Gee, I don't know.
We already told you. Because you're jealous.
Yeah.
People have killed for a lot less.
Mm-hmm.
A lot less.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not looking good at all.
And when investigators told Marcel Sommers that Els Clotemans was the author of the anonymous letter sent to Els Van Doren, he said, quote, "I always thought that the author of that anonymous letter was the killer of Els Van Doren." Once again, pointing the finger directly at Clotemans.
Yeah. He knew who the author of those were.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
So here's some more. Here's some more
Right.
weirdness, some more character stuff involving Els Clotemans that doesn't make it look good on her.
Oh,
Marcel
yes,
Sommers. This is Marcel on about the weekend prior to the deadly jump. The weekend that odd weekend they had spent together. The night supposedly that Clotemans had tampered with Els Van Doren's parachute. He says, quote, "Saturday, Els and I were naked in bed. Suddenly she, Babs, being Els Clotemans, stormed into the bedroom and jumped under the bed. I was between Els and Babs. She stayed there about 10 minutes. She was, quote, bored and was supposedly looking for a hairdryer. I believe she sabotaged the parachute in a fit. Els
Man,
Van
that's
Doorn.
so telling.
Yeah,
Right?
right. It just shows you her jealousy, right? She actually gets
Yes.
between them.
Hey, are you guys busy? Oh, no, you're just sitting in here
Oh, you're
naked.
nude in bed.
Have you guys seen the hairdryer? Why are you guys naked?
Right. Yeah. That's awkward.
Yeah, super.
Yeah. Here's another quote from him. Quote, Els Van Doorn remained until Sunday, November 12th. That same evening, Claudemans unexpectedly showed up again in Eindhoven. We are going to play pool in the evenings. Babs left, but she waited outside until Els Van Doorn left. Quote, suddenly she stood at my door. She was half dressed and jumped at me. We had sex, but it was rough sex. It was different than usual. So her behavior is more aggressive suddenly, now that she knows that it's in her face that him and Els Van Doorn are having this ongoing relationship.
Right. She's kind of like, remember me? She's giving him one last chance to change his mind.
Yeah. Also, I think it's important to note that like the day after Els Van Doorn died, Els Claudeman showed up to Marcel's house and was aggressively trying to get him to have sex with her. And he was obviously distraught about Van Doorn and was not into it. And she actually according to him, she like masturbated in front of him and was like trying to seduce him into having sex with her. And he was like, no, like my friend just died and it might've been you that killed her. I'm not into this.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But see, she was hoping that he didn't truly love her. This was a test for her. She was like, if I can get him to forget about her already, then that means he really cares about me and didn't care about her anyway. So that will make me feel a lot better. But she got proved wrong. She got proved that
her
did
plan
care about her.
backfired. It pushed him away even more.
Yep. That's such a narcissistic move right there.
Mm-hmm. It also came to light that 4 months before Els Van Doorn's death, Els Claudeman was suspected of trying to drive her car against a plane piloted by her former boyfriend in the United
that's
States.
Some Grand Theft Auto shit right there.
She did it, man. She did it. She tried to take out a plane with a car in the United States like 4 months prior. Like, who's to stop her from cutting the cords on a parachute if you're willing to ram a plane with a car with your ex-boyfriend driving it?
Yeah, you're not thinking about consequences at all.
Yeah.
That plane could have demolished you.
That is wild. That's a person that has that level of jealous rage. They were like, they don't even think about consequences in that moment.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. There are no consequences. That alone right there. These instances, this weird weekend that you're talking about here, and these weird... That is a lot of circumstantial evidence. And all this came up in court. But again, all circumstantial.
Yeah. And here's another thing that doesn't look good on her. On November 21st, 2006, 3 days after Van Doorn's death, Els Claudeman calls for Marcel Sommers to say that she'd found the pilot chute in a tree along the road in Oplabeek. She found... Elle's parachute that the cords had been cut, so her first chute drifted away from her body, and that might answer another reason why Els Claudemans would have waited a little longer so that she could see where that chute landed, so she could go recover it and get rid of the evidence. She allegedly was seen scouring the area for the days post Els Van Doorn's death. She was all around the area of the jump looking for that parachute and supposedly coincidentally finds it. Like she just happened to take a wrong turn. According to what she tells the police is that she just happened to find this thing.
I bet.
The pilot chute hung 14 meters high in a tree. You could only see it if you were really looking, investigators believe. The Sunday before Claudemans was looking, that Sunday before, she was out looking for the chute, and then 2 days later, she pretended that she happened to find it. She insisted in court that she did, quote, happen to find it, that there was a traffic diversion and I was lost. While I was trying to orient myself, I saw something in a tree. I drove slowly because I was stuck behind a tractor.
Wow, she really put that together, huh?
Yeah. What a
like
coincidence. What a coincidence. Yeah. You just happen to get diverted and you get stuck behind this tractor. And of course you find your friends that you may have killed her parachute.
Listen, I don't know about you, but I'm always looking 14 meters in the air when I'm stuck in traffic, bro. I just want to see what's going on up there, Mm-hmm. So this seems normal.
Yep. Throughout the highly publicized trial, the dynamics between Marcel Sommers, Els Van Doorn, and Els Claudeman were at the heart of the case. The affairs with Sommers were not contested, and the intensity of those relationships and the motives for the murder were in dispute between the prosecution and the defense. And this was obviously a highly publicized. This had everything you'd want from the media perspective to sell papers and articles on this.
Oh, of course.
You got a love triangle, parachute death. Like this is good stuff.
Oh yeah, this is a Lifetime movie right here.
So let's go into a little bit more of the Clodeman defense here. Deemed by the police the investigation as a botched investigation, according to her defense, calling it a bad movie from a bad director. They noted
Hey,
that
that's
there
what
was
I just did.
Did you?
Got him. I'm just kidding.
Nice.
Lifetime movies are fine.
Hey, you know what? I enjoyed several of them growing up.
Yeah. There's some good ones out there. There's some.
There
good
are.
Ones.
Yeah. There was one that sticks out with Mark Wahlberg and Reese Witherspoon. It was a Lifetime movie where he was abusive, and
Yeah,
her father
of course.
was the guy from CSI. I forget his name, the main guy from the CSI Las Vegas. And,
Oh, yeah.
It was like a battle between this psychopath Mark Wahlberg and her father trying to protect her from Wahlberg. It was good.
Wow, I didn't know Wahlberg was in a Lifetime movie.
Dude, that's what I'm
And
saying,
Reese
right?
Witherspoon.
There used to be some high end Lifetime movies.
What's that guy's name? Horatio? You talking about the redheaded guy from CSI?
No, you're talking CSI Miami. I'm talking CSI Las Vegas.
Las
Kind of like
Vegas.
he had like salt and pepper hair. The main guy.
Oh yes. I know who he is. I know who he
Yeah.
is now.
That's a
can't
good
think of his
Lifetime
name,
movie,
though.
man. I have to
Damn
revisit
it.
that one.
I have to check that one out.
Yeah, man. So the Clodeman defense, they're trying to basically say that the police zeroed in on Clodeman's right away and they ignored everything else. They said that there was a lack of physical evidence against their client. They asked that the jury not be swayed by assumptions and possibilities. Quote, "It is clear that Els Clodemans is not the author of sabotaging parachutes to the victim. DNA tests are all negative. Our client is not capable of committing such atrocious acts, and there is not such a motive to accuse her." Quote, "Early investigations focused on the argument that Els Clodeman sabotaged the parachutes of the victim during the night of 10 to 11 of November 2006, passed in the apartments of Marcel. It is not supported by any objective evidence. Investigators have forged their opinion and do not want to budge." And I actually agree with all of that. I do think they
Yeah.
zeroed in, and rightfully so, when you consider.
Except for the there is not much motive to accuse her. There's plenty of
That's
motive.
wrong, right? There's absolutely motive, and she's also absolutely capable. She's shown she's capable of doing
Yes.
something like this.
She is
Evidenced
capable,
by
and there's
4 months
motive.
prior trying to run into an airplane, flown by her freaking ex-boyfriend.
Exactly.
Yeah, she has violent tendencies with jealous rage. That's been shown,
Yes.
and she's been deemed to have psychopathic traits by 3 different professionals at this point. So yeah,
right.
Clodeman's defense suggested another suspect, Els Van Doren's husband, Jan Wild. Quote, "She has talked about divorce. She had said that she could leave in January. They would rent an apartment and Marcel would not withdraw. So she thought about it. Jan Wild himself, ex-paratrooper, was able to engage in sabotage. So he was also a jumper for a period of time and was capable
Right.
of doing such a thing.
Yeah, but he
and-
wasn't there though.
Yeah, and here's evidence to the contrary. The federal judicial police member Eugene Crabb said, "Quote: Only after the death of his wife did Jan D. Wild learn that his wife spent every weekend in the apartment of her lover Marcel Sommers. His body language was clear when we told him." And Jan Wild spoke of some more things that don't look good on Clodemans. He spoke of a dirty trick that Els Clodeman did at the funeral of his wife. Quote, "We had explicitly requested that Els Clodemans not be allowed in. Quote, I've seen her in a flash at the funeral. There was a clear argument that the people of the Parachute Club were not welcome to salute the body of Els. Despite the agreement on the last day, the 3 paratroopers arrived. Els Clodemans then asked to be alone with Els. Although I had specifically asked her not to do so, when the others were outside, she stood there a little bit to stay with my wife. That means that Clodemans was the last person to see Els. Is there anything happening? Has she been with my wife? Is a good laugh." So he's basically saying, was she alone with her to basically taunt her?
Right.
Had she enjoyed what she had done? I do not know, but it haunts me terribly. That
That's
haunts
creepy.
me too. Like imagine a woman kills your wife and then you request that she not be there because you believe that she did this to you, and then she not only shows up, but if she makes it to where she's the last person to see her, I would want to fucking kill her.
Yeah,
Like, I
ignores
told you not
all
to
of
be
your
here.
wishes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
clear that there was something she was getting off on that, right? Like it's got to be.
Or maybe she's just trying to make us a point like, oh man, she loved her so much. She's like,
course.
I loved
It's
her
all
more
calculated.
than even her husband because I was the last one
Yeah.
with her.
Fuck off.
Yeah. But someone like her who thinks that they're smarter than everyone else and that they're
narcissist.
actually fooling people would try this though.
Jan also said, quote, "I have a great respect for my wife. That double life apart I have until the last second had a good life with her."
Right on. He's being honest.
Yep.
Yep.
So on
Unless
October
he did it.
20th, do what?
Then I said, unless he did it, then that's also a
Yeah,
really good thing to
of course.
say.
If he did it, he's hiding it much better than he's handling this situation much better than Clodimans did.
Yeah, and I don't think he did. I
He's a
think
much
he
better
truly
actor.
loved his wife, and I think his wife was an amazing mother as well.
And like we
I
said,
don't-
they didn't have a passionate relationship anymore. They had
Right.
more of a a working parental relationship. They were partners
right.
in life,
And it's-
not so much like a passionate lover anymore.
Right, and it's totally irrelevant. But maybe Jan had someone to meet his physical needs as well.
Yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Right. I mean, it's not relevant. It doesn't matter at all. But I'm just saying, possibly.
So on October 20th, 2010, after a 4-week trial in the northern Flemish town of Tongeren, for a jury to find her, it took 4 weeks for the jury to find her guilty of premeditated murder, and the court sentenced Clodimans to 30 years. And although the jury found her guilty, there was no hard evidence to convict her. No confession, no witnesses, no fingerprints or DNA, not even an incriminating knife or pair of scissors that were used to cut the parachute. So they got her entirely off of character testimony, as to, her being odd and being jealous and having low self-esteem and having
Right.
issues, and the fact that she had motive and was in the place with the parachute at the time that it could have been done. But definitely surprising that they were able to get this conviction, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. It really is. No real evidence.
As much as there is to make her look guilty, as much doesn't look good on her, and as much as I am pretty damn convinced she did it, it's still like the courts are supposed to be, without reasonable doubt. And I still think there's reasonable doubt here because there was other people that could have feasibly done this as well. There were other people that could have been alone with Els Van Doorn's chute.
Yeah.
And you never know. Like there could have been other people that had motive to kill her. We don't know. We don't know all the inner workings of all of those relationships. Maybe she was sleeping with someone else in the club, or who knows,
Yeah, that's true. She could have. Maybe she had another boyfriend there, and Marcel was jealous.
Yeah, who knows?
Oh, no, I'm just
Who
kidding.
knows? Prosecutor Patrick Boyen would say, quote, Els Van Doorn saw her death coming from 4,000 meters, 13,000 feet from the ground, as if you had pushed her from the top of Mount Blanc. Clodimans was shown to have sent poison pen letters about Els Van Doorn to mutual friends. Clodimans was acting jumpy on the day of the murder. The three were regular skydiving partners, and normally they would leap at the same time and make a star formation in the air, but on the day of the murder, Clodimans hung back in the airplane while the other two jumped. She was an accomplished skydiver who knew how to disable a parachute and who had motive and opportunity to carry out the deadly sabotage. And I think that's very well said, and that's the case,
hard to argue.
essentially, against her. He just broke it down in just a few sentences, basically.
And in that way, it sounds like a really good case.
It does. It does. There is almost overwhelming circumstantial evidence in this one. That her waiting to jump, her scouring the area to try and find that parachute days after,
Yep.
the fact that she had sent letters, threatening letters about
And
Els.
phone calls.
And phone
Yep.
calls, the fact that she shown violent tendencies 4 months prior, trying to, basically kill her ex-boyfriend in the United States. Like, yeah, it's hard to get past all of that stuff. It really is.
Yep, no doubt. And then the way she acted afterwards too, trying to immediately distract Marcel from it and trying to gain his affection back. It's like
Yep.
immediately she was like, "I'm the only one left. You must want me now."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's super
and then
creepy.
disobeying Van Doren's husband's requests at the funeral really makes her look like a
Yes.
bad person as well.
Yes, it does. But she probably thought it was the opposite. She probably thought it was a good light to be seen in. Like I said,
How many times
mourning.
have we seen that where the killer goes to the funeral of the person they murdered and tries to make it about
Well,
them? Oh my
It's kind of a
God, I
lose-lose,
despise that.
isn't it? If they don't go, it's like they look guilty because it's like, oh,
Yeah,
well,
I suppose.
obviously they wouldn't be here. They killed him. And then they show up and it's like, oh, why are you here? You killed him. It's like, what am I supposed to
Right,
do? Not kill people, asshole. No, I'm just kidding.
right.
That's the idea. That's the idea. All right, man. Well,
Hope you guys enjoyed
crazy
this. A little
story.
something different,
Hell yeah. Something different, man. Do something different for your pits. Like, oh my Gaia. Am I right?
That's right.
That's right, guys. Oh my Gaia is an innovative all-natural
Maybe
deodorant
that's why
fragrance.
Clodimans jumped a little bit later. She was trying to get a whiff of Els Van Doren's pits because she was wearing some sweet pea.
Oof, yeah. Maybe that's all it was. She was like, I love falling in her vapor trail. It's just so
That's right.
great.
That could have been her defense.
It could have been, but she missed it. Yeah, if she had an American defense attorney, they would have thought of this.
Right.
But Oh My Gaia is an innovative, all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while maintaining effectiveness. At Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural, paraben, and aluminum-free organic ingredients. And guys, there's tons of scents to choose from vanilla, cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, fireside, bergamot amber, barbershop, pear, sailor. And we have our very own scent that we are super proud of called True Crime Pine. I always keep a jar on hand. And because you guys are True Crime Guys listeners, you can use the word creeper, CREEPER, for 15% off your order at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram or ohmygaia.com. That's OHMYGAIA.com. Guys, you won't regret it. And it's better than putting aluminum in your pits. They also got beard oil and scented oils as well, and incense. So make sure you get all your smelly good stuff from Oh My Gaia.
That's right. All right, I want to take a minute to thank everyone who's gone and rated and reviewed the show this week. I want to say thank you to Slike1 in the United States. Said, love it, 5 stars, especially love the Silk Road show. That was a good one.
Yeah. That's one of my favorites.
Ross Ulbricht?
No doubt. Yeah, where we said Dead Pirate Roberts the whole episode instead of Dread.
Sorry about that. It's Dread Pirate. We realize that now after 50 people corrected us.
Yeah.
It's just when you say that so many times, it's kind of like one of those things like say that 3 times, but it's just you start to say dead, you don't even mean to.
Right, you're just in a hurry, and it's irrelevant. The story is so amazing. Just pay attention to the story.
Yeah,
Jesus.
one of the better books we've ever used to study a case. It was a fantastic.
Yes, American Kingpin is what it's called.
Yeah. I want to say thank you to MN Bree from the United States. Said staying great, 4 stars. That's fine. And then she said as well, I've enjoyed this podcast for a few years now. Good humor and real reactions. Even a Patreon member. Thank you very much.
Right on.
Then we got Heidi Mom 380. I don't know. In the United States, said longtime listener, giving some love. I'm a freeloader, tried and true. I love it when people actually understand that we're just messing around like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Freeloaded. That's what it's there for.
Yep. She also says, I've been hanging around these parts since 2018, and I'm embarrassed to say that it's taken me this long to figure out how to rate and comment. These guys have kept me company through many hours of work, driving across country and doing housework. I've spread the love and have gotten my friends hooked on this podcast as well. I love what y'all do. Michael and Lauren, sorry if I misspelled that. Keep up the great work. You did misspell my name, but it's fine. I'm used to it.
Everybody does it.
Thank you very much, Heidi. And that's just as good as becoming a Patreon member. Spreading the show. Like if you're proud freeloader and you just want to do your part by just telling a friend or two about the show, that's just
awesome,
as awesome,
guys. And I know that the majority of our listeners are this way because I'm this type of podcast listener. I never interact with the hosts. You know?
Me neither.
Right? You just listen and consume all their stuff and just sit there in silence and enjoy it, and you never tell them. They want to know. They do want to know. I guess I can speak from experience. It is good to hear that stuff, but we also have peace in knowing that a lot of you guys are enjoying this stuff and telling friends, and you're not plastering it all over social media, and that's okay.
Yep,
we appreciate that.
Yep.
All right. Anything else?
Well, yeah. Patreon. Next week's episode is actually gonna be a Patreon exclusive episode. There's so much content on there for $2 a month. If you do want to become a part of the Freak Party on Patreon, $2 a month gets you access to our once a month Patreon only episode, which, like I said, next week you will not get a free episode on the main feed. It's only going to be on Patreon. We're thinking Scientology has been requested so much, people want to hear it, so we're going to do our take on that.
Oh, you guys aren't ready.
We have to do it on Patreon because we don't want them coming after us. They have to, at least if Scientology's the Church of Scientology is going to come after us for the things we say, they're at least going to have to get through the paywall. They're going to have to pay us to do it.
That's right. We'll at least get their $2 first.
Yeah, we at least get our $2 before they come and do whatever they're going to do.
We'll put that right towards our defense attorneys.
Right. Yeah, it's going to really go far. $2. They'll just laugh and be like, here's your $2. You're going to get your ass taken.
Yeah, we'll take the episode down. Thanks.
Yeah, so $2 a month gets you access to that and all of our other premium episodes that we've done over the years. I mean, we've had a Patreon page. We're grandfathered in. We've had a Patreon page for over 3 years now. Tons of episodes. And if you bump up to the $5 a month tier, you get Just the Banter, a show that we do every week where me and Michael get together. We talk for anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half, and we answer a bunch of questions from Patreon members, and you get to know us a little bit better, and it's a fun time. It's a little bit looser, more fun, no crime, just good times.
Yeah, just chilling. If you guys like the banter, if you guys like the tangents, Just the Banter may be right up your alley. We just released episode
38.
What do we call them? We call them volumes. Volume 38. So there is plenty of banter to get caught up on, guys. And that's not counting the, close to 100 Patreon exclusive episodes that are on there.
Yep.
So much content on Patreon.
And with that $5 to get you just the banter, all of our premium episodes, everything on there, you also get a Gold Creep Van sticker, which I just sent out. Holy crap, I spent a few hours because I had really gotten behind. I just sent out a fat stack of Gold Creep Van stickers. So if you haven't gotten yours, expect it. It's coming. Probably later this week you'll get it.
Hell yeah, guys. We appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
Also, check out our merch, truecrimeguys.threadless.com. I just added a new design that is for just the banter. It says, I'm just here for the banter, True Crime Guys. So just a basic logo shirt, and we have all kinds of shit with all of our logos, guys, from t-shirts, tank tops, sweaters, hoodies, everything from mouse pads to framed art to coffee mugs, travel mugs, everything you guys could want with your True Crime Guys logos and merch on there. We appreciate that so much. And again, that's truecrimeguys.threadless.com. You can check the links right below the description. Check out our link tree. It's the first link right below our description. So that's everything True Crime Guys there. Even our other show, Strange and Unexplained, which releases on Mondays on wherever you listen on the free platform. So, and that's where we tackle unsolved, missing persons, strange phenomena, some cult cases as well. A little bit of everything. It's just a little bit different format. I host it. I bring you the facts. I bring you some of my opinions, speculation, and then Lauren has his own segment on the show called Lauren's Synopsis, where he jumps in and he breaks down what he thinks. So there's not a whole lot of back and forth on that show, but you get to hear our opinions completely unbiased, what's the word I'm looking for? Interfered
unadulterated.
With, unadulterated by each other, because sometimes we convince each other, and it's kind of fun to see what
Don't
he thinks
adulterate
about
me,
an
Michael.
unsolved
Don't
case.
you dare adulterate me.
I won't adulterate you, man. I would never do that. Come
Because
on.
I'm about to break it down the case like cardboard boxes.
That's right. That's what you're known for. If you guys want to hear Lauren break down the case like cardboard boxes, check out Strange and Unexplained every Monday. And of course, there's a Patreon for that show as well, patreon.com/S&U podcast. But just check out the free stuff first, see what you like it. Dip your toe in the water. Check out some of the sand dune stories. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that's about it, guys. Also check out our album on Spotify or on Apple Music, iTunes, True Crime Guys, Killer Mixtape. Check that out.
Social media, True Crime Guys everywhere, at True Crime Guys as well.
Yep.
Yep.
That's it.
What more can you ask for? See you next week on Patreon. Otherwise, freeloaders, see you the following week for another batch of free episodes. Keep creeping. Have a great week, guys.
Yep. Keep creeping, guys.
True Crime Guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder, get murder. True Crime Guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder charming.